Welcome, everybody. My name is Ravi Kurani. I'm the CEO and founder of Sutro, and welcome to our third installment of the Sutro Members Spotlight. Today we have Brad Woodcox. Brad, I want to go ahead and hand over the mic to you. Can you
Sure.
just give us a quick introduction on you, right? Who you are, what you do, where you generally live? Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good. So, my background is I've got a few degrees in engineering and business. I spent most of my time and most of my career in product engineering and operational roles in both startup and large corporations. I currently run operations and strategy for a financial technology company. And from a location standpoint, I live in California, specifically in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Cool. Awesome. Really cool. You're in one of our prime pool locations. I mean, we primarily see customers from Texas, Florida, and California. That's awesome. Can you kind of walk us through what your life was like before Sutro, right? Like, how did you? I think for people that are also new pool owners out there, this kind of area is really important for them to see what it's like to treat a pool. So, like, what did you have to go through? What test kits did you use? Kind of just walk us through that.
Yeah, so I've got an outdoor in-ground pool, and when I first became a pool owner, I hadn't had an experience with maintaining a pool, so I just sort of dove into the deep end to figure it out. I initially tested my water with Taylor Liquid Reagents. First, I bought retail kits, and then later I picked up the TF100 kit, which is pretty popular in some of the major forums. And then I ended up making my way to using really a combination of some of those components. I generally found the liquid reagents to have greater accuracy and precision, which gave me confidence in the measurements and for me to subsequently add various chemicals to my pool to keep it in the safe elements. I tested mainly on the weekends and balanced my water then. It generally resulted in me having to overchlorinate on the weekend and then have it dissipate during the week to keep it with a safe sanitization level, which really isn't ideal because chlorine degrades faster when at a higher concentration. So it meant I was using more chemicals and wasn't efficiently using them as best as I could. And as chemical prices have increased, that practice becomes more punitive than it was several years ago.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great to hear. I want to pick on one thing you said in there. You said that you go through some of the forums. Can you kind of
Mhm.
touch on what those forums are?
Yeah, one of the big ones where I learned quite a bit from was Trouble Free Pool. There's a wealth of information with some really experienced people on there, and it's been around for a long time. I think over a decade. So there's a lot of legacy information. If you have questions or have, in particular, specific things or peculiarities of your pool, there's probably someone else who has had a similar setup or a similar circumstance, and there's a good chance that you can find something on there for recommendations for how you can treat your pool.
Actually, when we were first starting Sutro, we would go into Trouble Free Pool a lot of times because some of our best customers actually end up reading Trouble Free Pool because they're all pool geeks, right? So they're
Yeah.
like super dedicated in making sure their pool is blue and is well chemicalized. In kind of that process, did you purchase chemicals from a pool store? Do you purchase them online? What does kind of like your buyer behavior look like?
Um, Purchase chemicals from a variety of places. I have a local pool store. That's what I try to go to purchase chemicals from, just to support a local small business. Also have some larger chain stores which I'll occasionally visit. They generally have better hours than the local pool store, so if I'm having to shop not during business hours during the week, then I may have to visit there. And then sometimes for some of the more less frequently used chemicals and the non-liquid chemicals, I'll sometimes buy them online.
Yeah, sure. When we talk to our customers, they're across the board, right? So they'll purchase chemicals all the way from Amazon. Many of them do like to support their kind of local pool and spa store, but comes from kind of all across the board. Let's kind of jump into your Sutro purchasing decision, right?
Yeah,
I remember you're one of our first customers that we have. Still remember seeing your email. I think I was when I sent you an email on if you're willing to be on this member spotlight.
yeah.
Man, I think the email went back to like 2016 or 2017, something like that.
It's probably about right. Yeah.
So you were one of the first people through our door. Walk us through like the good, the bad, the ugly. I think it's also just good to be honest here on this forum, and like for people out there watching, if you haven't bought a Sutro yet, if you have, like we keep this super honest. So walk us through the kind of purchasing journey, why you ended up purchasing Sutro, and then the good, the bad, the ugly. Yeah,
Sure. So, having spent a lot of my time in engineering and product operations, I really value automating tasks, particularly repetitive tasks. And maintaining a pool really involves a lot of repetitive tasks, measuring the key factors of the pool, balancing the pool water, cleaning the pool. All of those are repetitive tasks that are similar day to day and week to week. And as I saw the concept of what Sutro was, and it could automate the first piece of that, which is automating the water measurement, and then that permitted me to be much more effective in balancing the pool water. And so that was what led me into the decision to purchase it. Is I thought it was a fantastic idea and concept, and it would in fact be more effective than what I was, because it would measure the pool significantly more frequently than I was doing, which would really allow me to understand my pool in a depth of understanding that I had not experienced before.
Awesome. And I just kind of want to on something you said earlier, right? Where
Yeah.
you previously to Sutro used to measure your pool chemistry like over the weekend, right? When you used to
Mhm.
dose with the chemistry. In Sutro giving you information kind of in the middle of the week now, right? That you might have to dose your chemistry. Kind of two questions there. One, has it made it simpler, in that task automation side of things of making sure that you're getting the measurements? The question is around, do you still go out on like a Wednesday, right? A Wednesday and a Saturday and just dump a little bit of chlorine in so your average is staying more, or do you still do that on the weekend?
I do smaller additions much more frequently now.
Okay.
Generally, probably 2 or 3 times a week. Um, but it's definitely changed the behavior for how I balance my pool, and I stay in a much tighter range than I did in the past.
And have you seen like a cost savings on that? I don't know. Anecdotally, some things actually we've been trying to figure out is like, I'd love to actually draw a baseline between like what is it without Sutron with, but anecdotally, do you kind of off the top of your head, does it feel like you're saving money or?
Yeah, I think so. I think I use less chlorine. I don't actually have data to support that, because that was one of the pieces I just haven't tracked, was exact expenses of what I spent on chemicals. But anecdotally, it definitely feels like I purchased less chlorine.
Awesome. So for anybody of those of you out there listening, and if you do have the Sutro, we'd love send us an email because we'd love to track how much of how much data and how much money we actually do save. That's really interesting.
So the good, as I said, I think Sutro really helped me understand the characteristics of my pool to a degree that I was never able to before. I can now see trends too in the pool of how it's changing, and I can predict now where I think it's going to go. I can look at my test results today and know, looks like on Friday I'm going to have to add a little bit more chlorine in there. I never really understood that level, the predictive behavior of how I thought the pool was going to respond to particularly sunny or warm days in the past. I understand now. The bad, I've occasionally had some cartridges where one of the measurements was a bit off. Something was wrong with the reagent or with the cartridge where it intakes in the pool water, where there was some bit of contaminant had gotten in, and so it throws off some incorrect readings. Support's generally been really great at being able to sort that out with me. If they can identify and look at some characteristics on the back end, and will get me out a new cartridge. So that occasionally has happened. It really hasn't been that big of a deal. And then I'd say the ugly is, I originally had an issue with my original Sutro monitor. Again, as you mentioned, it was really early. And was having an issue with it. Contacted support, and they sent me on a new unit. So within a week. So it was great. Ugly in that, like, hey, the monitor didn't work, but it was a
Yeah.
really early model. I knew that going in. That the support team was awesome at being able to replace it, and I've been on the replacement monitor since. So for a number of years, I've had it. It's worked flawlessly.
Amazing. Yeah, I'll have to pass along those kudos to our support team. Definitely. That's awesome that you say that. Anything else around that front?
No, I think that was it.
Cool. You kind of mentioned earlier that you're in tech. You've been, part of a lot of startups. A lot of people that are in tech, including myself, fill our homes with like a ton of smart stuff, right? I have like an Alexa and a Google smart doorknobs. What do you have in your home? Can you walk us through kind of
Yeah.
a few of the smart things you have?
Yeah, I've been an early adopter into home automation. I've got a number of devices kind of throughout my home, everything from lights to blinds to HVAC, security, water valves, leak detectors, home theater system, appliances, electric vehicle charging. I think that probably captures most of it. Generally, my goal with that is not just to have connected devices, but really to have an automation system that can take input from things in the environment and respond accordingly. So that's been my goal in setting a lot of this up. I would love for Sutro to, right now, Sutro is an input into that, but I would love to get to a spot where it can be responsive and to like start taking that action that I would like to take.
Yeah, entirely. Are you one of our customers that's on the Hasa liquid feeder? The
I
HLF
do
part
have
as
a
well?
Haas liquid feeder. Yeah, which I think would be a great spot for where I'd like to see that really expand. Um, you can imagine, which I'm sure you already have, of where you have the measurement, and if it's connected both to my variable speed pump and a Haas liquid feeder that has a variable position valve on there, you can have a scenario of where it can predict and understand when the sanitizer levels are starting to get low. It clicks on your variable speed pump, it turns the valve on in your Haas liquid feeder, and it adds chlorine for some period of time, and then can run a test, verify that it in fact is at a safe level, and shut the equipment off. But that would be a dream setup for me as far as automating that, and it means there's no input that is really needed for me. I can just set everything up and it runs.
Yeah, no, that's actually a brilliant idea. And one of the directions, yeah, we're definitely, you kind of, pick the words out of my mouth. That's part of the roadmap to development as well. So for all the Hasa people out there listening, first of all, you should definitely get an HLF with the Sutro. Does we're actually working on a better way to integrate both of them together. But then secondarily, yeah, that automation side, right? How can we sense and dispense at the exact same time? You hit a really important point. Are there any other suggestions that you have out there, like things that just off the top of your head, you're like, oh, this would be really cool if Sutro could do this?
Yeah, I think one of the based on my time in tech and working with startups, I think one of the critical factors for predicting the success of a startup is how effective they are at listening and responding to users' feedback. It's so important, but yet a lot of companies don't do it. And I think Sutro's been, during the time that I've been a customer of it, has been really responsive to that. I know one of the pieces of feedback that I and probably many others had passed on early was really wanting to personalize the test times. Initially, there was a fixed set of times in which it would run the tests. Those were okay, but they weren't ideal for my scenario and like my life and how when I was available to engage with the results. And one of the features that was rolled out just recently was an update to allow you to customize what those times are, which has been amazing. It's been much better for me. I've shifted them a couple hours off of what the default times were, and it's really been a much better customer experience from my standpoint. There's one piece that I would love to see expanded from that is right now it doesn't automatically sense between the daylight saving
Hmm.
time being on or off. I would love that, and I passed along that feedback, and I think it's somewhere on the roadmap to be able to do that. So right now, when daylight saving either turns on or turns off, I have to go in and customize those times and swap it either forward or back an hour, respectively. But that would be another piece that I would love to see kind of added in from a customer experience perspective.
Yeah, yeah, I can confirm that it is on the development roadmap. Definitely, you'll see it coming soon.
All
Definitely.
right.
Cool.
I don't need it until what, October or November. So
Yeah,
the next time it
yeah,
shuts off
exactly.
would be when I'd love to see it in place.
We bought ourselves a little bit of time by just passing
Yeah.
daylight savings time, so we're
Yeah.
good in terms of like timeline. Yeah. Awesome. Last question here that I always like to ask people are what's like a favorite book or TV show, one or the other that you're watching or reading?
Yeah. So I just started a book called CEO Excellence, which is a book based on some work and research by a few individuals at McKinsey and Company. I'm not all the way through it yet, but it's been pretty good. There's quite a bit of like really valuable information in there.
Awesome. I'll definitely need
Yeah.
to pick it up.
Yeah.
Cool, Brad. I think that's good for now. We might have you over after we put in that daylight savings time bug. But thanks again for doing this, and
Sounds
we're glad that you're happy with Sutro. We'll have more coming out with the Hasa soon, hopefully.
awesome. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thanks, Brad.
All right. Thanks, Ravi.